The Anthropogenic Impacts on Puerto Rican Coral Reefs, a presentation made by Gabriela Vázquez, Glorian Vázquez, Angelo Cancel. In this presentation, we will be talking about our objectives, the definition of coral reefs, the importance of coral reefs in Puerto Rico, common threats to these coral reefs, human effects, much like pollution, raw sewage, In our presentation, we want you to know what coral reefs are. We want you to understand the importance of coral reefs, to identify those human factors affecting our coral reefs, and the common location we can observe these effects.
Coral reefs are more than just colorful underwater structures. They are large underwater structures composed of the skeleton of corals, which are marine invertebrate animals, generally found in warm, clear, shallow waters like in the Caribbean, where there is plenty of sunlight to nurture the algae that the coral rely on for food. In these colorful structures live marine life, as you can see in the movie Finding Nemo. as Nemo talks about living in an anemone. These ecosystems constitute of one of the most biologically diverse areas of Puerto Rico, as well as of the entire planet, where we can find the most colorful marine life. These underwater structures are held together by calcium carbonate exoskeletons that are secreted by the same corals. These protect them and support them. They are built by It is important to protect coral reefs in Puerto Rico because these protect coastlines from damaging effects of wave action and tropical storms, such as Maria, provide habitat and shelter for many marine organisms, are the source of nitrogen and other essential nutrients for marine food chains, assist in carbon and nitrogen fixing, and they also help with nutrient recycling.
The most common threats coral reefs experience in Puerto Rico are due to human waste and negligence, water pollution, chemical pollution, and global warming. In this presentation, we will not be talking about all these topics, but only the ones caused by humans. Thanks to human waste, there has been a rapid loss of coral reefs and the algae have been taking over affecting specific members of the reef-building coral community, like the Acropora palmata. They have been drastically reduced in percent of cover on the stressed reefs. There are massive colonies of dead coral overgrown by algae, affecting the biodiversity of them. The dead coral is all that remains of reefs that must have once had covered a comparable to the magnificent shelf-edge reefs at La Barguera. These algae that are now overgrown are actually destroyers of coral. Along with these, we are finding
Land-based pollution is one of the most serious coral reef stressors. As mentioned earlier, coral reefs need clean and clear water to survive. When oil spills or sewage drainage enter the water, they smother coral reefs, making them more susceptible to diseases, and it also affects their reproduction and growth. Pollution includes deforestation and oil and chemical spills caused by factories, road construction, and agriculture. Pollution also includes increased nutrients. They cause diseases and mortality, disrupt the ecological functions, and change the dynamic and feeding behaviors. As human population and development expands in coastal area, the landscape is altered, increasing land-based source of pollution and threatening coral reef health. We can help by applying less fertilizers, picking up after your pets, and a lot of other recommended solutions As mentioned in the earlier slide, humans cause many forms of pollution that affect the coral reefs all around the world, but mostly here in Puerto Rico. Sewage waste is one of the most common ones, and we'll be talking about them in the next slide. Human waste include plastic bags, which end up in the ocean like most of our waste does. We're destroying our ecosystem one plastic bag at a time. Important coral reef systems are found along Mayagüez, in the Tourmaline Line Bay, and in Ponce in Caja de Muertos. Coral reefs on this coastal sections develop under the influence of moderate in Ponce to high in Mayagüez seasonal runoff from river discharge and have experienced significant degradation, particularly in systems located close to the shoreline.
Sedimentation is another factor that affects our coral reefs. Sedimentation occurs when sediments enter the water and cause murkiness on the ocean floor. You can notice this when you go to the beach and the floor is kind of muddy. How does it travel? Usually, sedimentation travels by river or other areas of the ocean. A common factor affecting our coral reefs is dredging. Dredging involves the excavation carried out underwater with the purpose of gathering up bottom sediments and widening. It can also be used as a technique to catch crabs or clams. Dredge spills may contain toxic chemicals that may have a diverse effect on oceanic colonies. Another factor of sedimentation is harbor construction. With harbor construction, workers may leave pieces of concrete, nails, or building tools on the ocean floor, or some tools may involve gasoline, and these spills are dangerous to our ecosystem. And also, last but not least, the clearing of for hotels, homes, and any other construction sites. A region very common to sedimentation is Rincón, Humacao, and Palmas del Mar. Alfredo Torrullera, director of the Blue Legacy Foundation, which their primary focus is on the improvement of the ocean, says that in Rincón there is a very serious problem since the houses are almost on the water. In Humacao, there is also a lot of erosion which causes the contamination of this water, and in Palmas del Mar, the beaches are disappearing. That red region on the first picture is Rincón, located on the west of Puerto Rico. And in our bottom picture, we can observe the restaurant Bouget, where they serve fish and other aquatic species for human consumption. In a lot of times of the year, they stage parties next to the ocean, and they're mostly at night for their students and other young adults who neglect the clean sand and clean area and throw a lot of the trash on the ground, which can lead regions common to sedimentation. The Mona Channel, which is located on the west of the island, next to Isla de Mona. In the first picture, to our left, we can observe in blue where it says Mona Passage. In 2003 and 2004, partners from the Amigos de Amona removed 3,235 kilograms of marine debris from the islands of Puerto Rico's Mona Channel. The debris consisted of fishing gear, 48%, plastics, 13%, glass, 14%, metal, 8%, and miscellaneous items such as refrigerator doors, rubber shoes, packing, and insulation materials, and washing machines, 17%. Amigos de Amona. Many cans and other human articles end up on the ocean, risking the lives of the ocean's population and our coral reefs. Last but not least, our third region common to sedimentation, especially dredging, is the Port of San Juan. The making of the Port of San Juan could have contributed to the destruction of neighboring coral reefs. In our first picture, we can observe in red dots the coral reefs that have been identified throughout the planet. And in the bottom picture, we can observe a picture of the port of San Juan. The pollution problems that plague Caño Martín Peña and the health risks they pose to the community are serious, said the EPA Regional Administrator Judith A. Enck. This agreement is an important step towards addressing these serious problems by coordinating the efforts of the federal government, Puerto Rico, and the community. As we can see, efforts are being made when it comes to cleaning up our oceans and cleaning up all the debris found from the Port of San Juan to other contamination materials. It is very important to alleviate stress. So, sometimes us Puerto Ricans like to do fun stuff in the water, like snorkeling, windsurfing, scuba diving, and going on an occasional boat ride and occasional jet ski rides. These are fun, don't get me wrong, but sometimes they can endanger the species in the water. In our first picture, we can see an anchor being stuck to coral reefs. These can affect greatly and very much die. On the bottom picture, we can see a scuba diver that, with the negligence of his professionalism, or anything he's doing really, could affect our corals and all the fishes around it, because those fishes probably live or feed on those corals. In our third picture, we can see a snorkeler and a windsurfing kite. Sometimes corals are very close to the surface. Therefore, when a windsurfer travels by, it could very much hit the coral and cause its death. We have to be careful when we're doing these activities, because we want to live in peace with ourselves and with our community, mostly with our ecosystems. Here we have a quote taken from a local Puerto Rican newspaper. It reads, "Unfortunately, coral reefs are facing serious threats. Those who visit and practice submarine sports like snorkeling and scuba diving could damage these by kicking them or walking over them, and leaving sediments that could suffocate young corals. They could accidentally break them." Snorkeling and scuba diving is a really fun activity for families and different tourists that are visiting the island. But sometimes the carelessness of these could cause the death of corals.
Good afternoon, my name is Angela Cancel and now I'm going to talk about the overfishing problem. Recreational and commercial fishing have caused an overexploitation of the many fish species that form an essential part of the coral ecosystem. This may induce a shift in the feeding ecology of the coral ecosystem. The detrimental techniques involved in overfishing have also resulted in direct damage to coral and the other reef species. Reef fish are under intense pressure in Puerto Rico from a variety of user groups, including commercial fishers, recreational anglers, and spear fishers, and to a lesser extent the collector of ornamental fishes and invertebrates. Reef fisheries have plummeted during the last 20 years and show the classic sign of overfishing, reducing total landing, declining catch per unit effort, shift to smaller fish and less desirable species, and recruitment failures. Overfishing has been implicated in the decline in landing observed among coral reef associated fish and shellfish species such as Nassau, Angolia groupers, queen conch, snapper, and parrotfish. In the commercial fishery, there has been a decline in the use of traps due to their high cost and relatively low yield, and an increase on the use of lines, nets, and scuba gear. In an effort to reverse the decline, the Department of Natural and Environment Research the DNR, has enacted new fish regulations, which will require recreational fish licenses, prohibit recreational spearfishing with scuba gear, eliminate beach sailing within 3 years, establish size limits and daily quotas on several species, require species-specific permit to high-value and sensitive species, and create no-take zones around Mona, Mojito, and the Secheo Islands, and the Condado Lagoon. In this image, we can see the threats to coral reef overfishing. Coral reef fish are a significant food source for over 1 million people worldwide. Many coast and island communities depend on coral reef fisheries for their economic, social, and cultural benefits. But too much of a good thing can be bad to the coral reef. We can see the fishing spawning aggregation. Some species gather in large numbers at predictable times and locations to mate. Spawning aggregation are particularly vulnerable to overfishing. Fishing too many big fish. Large fish produce more young that are likely to survive to adulthood. Their absence means fish population dive over time. Indiscriminate fishing. Use of non-selective gear like nets and traps often remove more herbivorous fishes. These fishes eat algae and help keep the ecosystem in balance. Fishing nurseries. Near shores, habitats serve as nurseries for many fish. Catching young fish in nets remove them before they can help replenish the population. And finally, marine debris. Traps set too close to the reef and marine debris such as ghost traps, lost nets, monofilaments, and lines can damage coral reef, which take a long time to recover. How you can help? Educate yourself on local fishing rules and regulations. Your state fishery agency or bait and tackle shop can help you learn more. Make suitable seafood choices. Only take what you need. Catch and release fish that you don't plan to eat. Be a responsible aquarium owner. Know where your fish come from and do not release unwanted fish in the wild. Coral reef ecologist Edwin Hernandez and marine science Ernesto Diaz, director of the Coastal Zone Program of the Department of Natural and Environment Resources, DNR, are two of the experts who demand the defense of the coral according to F. Hernandez, who will soon direct an investigation to find out what state the coral reef of Puerto Rico coast are, say that the importance of these ecosystems lies in the fact that they are a free breaker for any storm and have an ecological well highly appreciated by the tourism. The DNR estimated in 2007 that the value of the coral reef in northeast Puerto Rico has about 1,800 million. For this reason, its ecological restoration plays an incredibly highly important role for the recovery of fishing, the rehabilitation of biodiversity, and the submarine landscape, and as a natural barrier for the protection of the coasts. In the specific case of Puerto Rico, according to Hernandez, the level of coral degradation is severe in some parts of the island, mainly due to runoff streams or sewage or in a poor condition that are dumped in coastal areas. Runoff, among other effects, cause the death of coral and turbid waters which harm the reef which need clarity to survival. Dice add, as in the rest of the world, the coral closer to the coast are quite affected due to the practice of misure and lands bounding the coast, sedimentation, and overfishing. Conclusion. Coral reefs are a big part of our ecosystem. They are home to millions of underwater species, and thanks to the wasteful and irresponsible action of human beings, they are disappearing, along with many aquatic species. The anthropogenic impact on coral reefs close to Puerto Rico have come from cities like Ponce, Mayagüez, Humacao, San Juan, etc. These are not the only ones that affect our ocean, but are a great example of places that could improve the action to reduce the amount of contamination. Through this presentation, we would like to take notice of these problems and greatly reduce them.